What is the worst thing that has happened at a high school reunion party that you attended? My sister, my now husband and I were all in the same graduating class. Plus, my husband's best friend. Best friend's name is something like John Smith. Very common. He was very popular in HS. Super nice guy. Stood out in a crowd. If you didn't know him, you certainly knew of him. Even in a massive school. So anyway, the 20 years reunion rolls around. My sister is the only one who wanted to go. She called right after, very upset. Apparently there was a huge memorial wall for John Smith, who had just died. None of us knew. Awful. My husband was like, huh? But we just saw him, called him up, and was like, hey dude, are you dead? No, not dead. Surprised, but not dead. Anyway, it turned out the much less popular other John Smith was the one who died. They made a lovely memorial for the wrong guy, who was forgotten totally. We still run into people to this day who see him and are like, hey, aren't you supposed to be dead? This is actually horribly sad for the guy that actually died. Still mucking hysterical though, I know, right? I didn't remember him at all, and obviously nobody else did either. He died whitewater rafting. So I hope he was living his best post-HS life. Oh damn, that's so sad to hear. But yeah, at least it sounds like he was having fun and doing what he wanted. Some girl confessed to cheating on her high school sweetheart, thinking enough time had passed it wouldn't bother him. She thought wrong. Since this was so well received, I'll add some details here so that they're all in one place. The reunion was 10 years later. The two of them hadn't seen each other in years. As far as I know, they broke up shortly after high school ended. After she broke the news, somewhat nonchalantly as well, the guy flipped out and slapped her, then started screaming at her. She ran away, at which point he broke down and said something about wasting his high school years and left. We still managed to have a good time even after all that though, which was nice. And all you comedians misspelling school and saying Bob isn't cool, insert appropriately severe threat here. Wait, is she still together with her high school sweetheart? Or she saw an old fling at the reunion and casually admitted to cheating on him? The second, they hadn't seen each other in years as far as I know. Had the same thing, since reunion, happened to me over the phone almost a week ago. I was catching up with her and wanted to remain friends. She just up and said sorry about the things she did. I said you didn't do much to hurt me. It was mostly my fault we didn't work out. And she dropped a row, I'm glad you weren't upset about me sleeping with XXXan. I just hung up. Whoever thinks that that would have ended well, or to think that someone you cheated on would ever be okay with it. Someone I knew from school tried to arrange an unofficial reunion as the school weren't going to do one. He was socially inept, so would say, and do odd things which people picked up on a lot, but his heart was always in the right place. He went to a lot of effort, but very few people responded at all. Those that did mostly made snide comments about the event behind their back, like dissing the location, etc. Some made fun of him personally too, as he was doing some admittedly odd, hot organizing. Then close to the event he cancels and blows up, sending everyone a justified message about how they can all go suck eggs, and he was just trying to do something nice and wanted to catch up with people. That was received with more snide remarks too. He died unexpectedly just a few months later. This exploded, so I'll try to read all replies and answer. He died from a heart attack. He was a very large person, which seems to have contributed. I'm not sure if many people from the reunion know or not. I found out on FB as he was a friend on there. This was a 15-year reunion, so 30 over 31-year-olds, UK. I'm from the UK, so maybe our reunions here are different to US. Most of the people who didn't reply seem to be the more decent people, and coincidentally the ones who have moved away or just moved on in their lives. Those who did were mostly the ones who still spent every week at the same bars with their same school friends. When it cancelled, they all actually went out the same night for drinks, but didn't invite the organizer. A not example of organizing was explaining the color theme of the space to everyone so they could make sure they color coordinated their outfits. That's really sad. People can be pieces of deuce sometimes. Right? Who the hell throws their own reunion? God, I hope the /s isn't needed. That would be my cousin. Has quite socially inept and predictably has no friends as such. His only love is biking. He tried to arrange meetups so often, and nobody ever showed any interest. The last attempt he made was falling on his birthday. The poor guy just wanted to go out and ride with people he considered as friends on his special day. A group of 3 agreed to join, but then bailed on him. It was even worse that they went off on their own ride to another location. So it's not like they were busy. They just didn't want to go out with him. He did his ride all by himself and has never participated in a group ride since then. And yes, I visit him occasionally and we go biking together. He lives in a city that has especially good roads. One guy had made not 1, but 2 fortunes and had a net worth of well over $100 million by our 20th reunion. High-speed modem patents in the late 1980s, early investor in broadband. Right place at the right time. He'd already retired. On our classmate update bulletin he listed his occupation as unemployed and unemployable as a bit of a gag. Some of the well-meaning but clueless types sought him out to offer encouragement and tips on how to find work. I've met 2 billionaires through work. One does work, and the other happily, oh so happily, lives the life most of us only dream of. He's a super nice guy and mentioned he might go back to work after his kids are grown. He says he's lucky enough to be home with them. I managed executive suites in Dallas about a decade ago, and a billionaire recluse officed out of one of the offices. Very quiet and unassuming. German dude whose family made their fortunes in ball bearings since the early 20th century. He actually one of the top 100 richest people in the world. Crazy sitting across a desk from someone like that and just shooting the poop. My 10-year reunion killed itself before it happened. Turns out our class president, traditionally in charge of organizing, took a hard turn into a footless character after high school. Highlights of her event planning include no alcohol allowed, not even by a few classmates in a reasonably successful band offered to play for free. She was adamant there would be no music or dancing, plus ones were to be spouses only. 2 guys happily told her they'd bring their husbands, and she kicked them both from the Facebook page. The venue was a high school soccer field in Iowa in August. We were welcome to bring our own chairs. A few people offered to bring beanbags and box and similar games. She said no, because it would make the reunion too much like tailgating. Suggested entertainment was a guided tour of the school, which had undergone zero change since we graduated. Catering was from Hy-Vee, which is a grocery store. Their food is actually okay, but tickets were $60. It was ultimately cancelled because out of our class of 300, less than 10 people bought tickets. Okay fact, this was Eastern Iowa, Cedar Rapids/Iowa City region. Which makes the sudden footless morals all the weirder. It's a pretty liberal area. I cast no judgment on Hy-Vee catering. Put down the pitchforks. Their food is good. Just not $60 worth of good. I sadly couldn't come up with the name of the band, short of messaging dudes I haven't talked to in 20 years. Looks like they haven't been active in quite a while. A bunch of people who stayed local did indeed pick a bar and a Saturday night to meet up, and had much amoral debauchery. Rumor has it there was even karaoke. It makes a good story, but I'm ultimately sad for our event planner. I got the impression that she really needed everyone to see that she was the most good person who was doing everything right, and that she hadn't been in control of something in a long time. I hope she's doing better now. Yeah, that's a good lesson in who had authority. You can just, instead, talk to everyone else and agree to meet separately. Authoritarianism. She wanted to tell other people what they could or could not do at the expense of the group. I hope she doesn't have kids. If she took this hard of an evangelical turn, she likely does. One of mine never happened either. I forget. At our school I think it was the class vice president or secretary who was in charge of the reunion. Anyway, the girl who was in charge returned, fresh off a divorce, to our alma mater a couple years before the reunion, as a teacher. At the end of her first year teaching, she ran off to Arizona with the captain of the tennis team. It was a huge scandal. All ties severed. The school reunion was a casualty. Didn't happen to me, but I had this friend who got someone pregnant back in the day, and she kept the kid. They've both been great about it. He helps financially, but that was the extent of his contribution. She married soon out of high school and met a great guy who has been the de facto dad. Either way, it's a day. Bring your kids. If you have them event and someone let slip that my friend is that kid's real dad, and the kid heard it, and it was a ducking poop show. Everyone was trying to figure out who said that, and how could someone spill that secret, etc. In the end my friend pretended he was shocked and laughed it off as a joke, which honestly in front of the kid was probably a good move. At first, I just thought geez, what a dick about the person who told. But then I realized that I could totally see myself absent-mindedly saying something about it to someone else. If the kid heard it by accident, the person who told must have felt terrible, lol. The absent-minded thing is how my great-aunts found out their stepmom wasn't their actually mom. My great-grandmother died in childbirth with the twins, and my great-grandfather remarried quickly cause that's what you did. At their first communion, someone said to someone else, their mother would be so proud to see what beautiful girls they are, or something to that effect. Turned into a very interesting communion. It wasn't really bad, just odd. A guy came with full Kiss style makeup on, white face, black shapes around his eyes and black lips. We were too awkward and polite to mention it, so everyone just chatted with him, as though it was completely normal to turn up like that. Is it possible that he just did it as a private joke, the idea being to remain straight-faced and watch people squirm? Or was he just a really big Kiss fan? I'd hope so, because that's ducking funny. Someone told me, you're not a failure, be yourself. And so when I went and proudly told them what I was doing these days, working a $9.25/HR job, going back to school, having gotten life together in a rehab, and back on track, I was proud. They all pitied me, and one dude tried to give me money. It made me feel bad about my current progress. I hate people. The biggest thing I've learned is to never compare yourself to other people. I was an A and B student in high school, and I had very good grades in college, but I'm currently working in a grocery store making $14.50 an hour. I would never thought that I would be working in a grocery store post-college, but here I am. I made the mistake in choosing criminal justice as a major. I want to be a police officer, but I found it's very hard to a position in the field. There's so many hoops you have to jump through. I'm thinking about going back to school, just to have a backup plan, but not being in debt right now is pretty nice. Not so much at but before. 10-year reunion for my largish school, 500 graduates per year. The plan was for the reunion to take place over Thanksgiving weekend. To help pay for the expense, raffle tickets were sent out to the entire class to sell. The reunion didn't happen. What were they going to do that couldn't be handled by just asking each attendee to pay $20 to $50? With some help available for people where paying $50 would be a hardship. At my 25th reunion, people complained about having to pay $40. When someone suggested that they would be willing to throw a couple of bucks towards anyone not being able to afford the fee, it became a poop show of privilege vs of not taking your charity. I was afraid something like this would happen at our reunion, so my wife and I anonymously paid for a bunch of crap and never fessed up it was us. A lot of unemployment where we grew up, one of the reasons we got the truck out and only go back to visit. It's been a decade since I finished school. I see an old classmate sometimes when he does maintenance work in my apartment block. About a year ago he asked if I was going to the reunion organized by some of our classmates. I said no, because I couldn't think of anything worse, and also hadn't been invited. Apparently they organized it over Facebook, which I don't have. When I next saw him 6 months later, I asked how the reunion was, and he exasperatedly explained that it had been a real deuce show. The Mean Girls had started planning it together, fell out and then started each planning their own. So there was about 4 deucety tiny awkward parties and everyone was confused. This sounds like it should have been a TLC show where the judges vote on whose party was the best. The winner gets to go on a date with the former star QB who picks them up on his old motorcycle.